Thanks, everyone. That was great. Hi, if I haven't met you, I'm Robin Clayfield, and I have the absolute honour and privilege of helping us complete together as a whole gathering. We've got an hour and a half to do our closing and closing ceremony and thank yous and all of that. And there's a couple of quick housekeeping things before I hand to Costa, who's going to do a very brief essence summing up of the Convergence. And the first thing is Emily said to me there's a QR code here that's for people to be able to do the feedback forms and things like that. So if you could take a photo of that at some stage, and if we could arrange for the tech folks up the back at the end of the jumping slides, could you put that back up there so people get a chance to photograph it and it can stay there through the evening a little bit? And it's on the pin board on the veranda. And Virginia's got a quick thing to mention to you.
Very quickly, I'm Virginia Solomon, by the way. If anybody needs professional development certificates for their matrix, any trainers out there who want to be able to claim their professional development here at this Convergence, if you email hello@permacultureaustralia.org.au and just put professional development in the subject line and tell Meg which sessions you attended and want on your certificate. That's all you have to do, and you will get her a certificate. Thank you.
Oh, guess what? I got asked by Robin about 3 minutes ago.
No, it was 20.
Okay, 15. But there was other things in between, so it feels like about 30 seconds ago. Just to do a little bit of a wrap. Now, my heart is full. My body is overflowing. I have so many new friends that I've met here in front of me, and I have the Master Milo, who's been tracking me non-stop every day and calling out my name, and I think we're up to 7 tracks today. But when I think about what fruit has been picked, sorry, I just had to use that. When I think about the faces that I look, now I've looked everyone in the eyes over these last few days. I haven't spoken to all of you, but I've seen you all engaged in conversation. I can only say to the organisers that you have created such an incredible space for this exchange. And for this exchange to fill us, not in a kind of closed off group, but in a recognition space where we can take away from so many people's actions. Hannah talked about actions. We saw the actions that Igor is doing. Like, think about, he talked about like not making monuments, and I think that is one of the most powerful things we could each take away. I've travelled the country and I've seen monuments. I've seen monuments in Arnhem Land of an aquaculture system where the gate valve broke, and that was it. It was now full of rubbish. And what Ego was talking about, we can take away with all of the projects we do. How much monument making are we doing, and how much real-time simplicity are we bringing using local assets already in place? And that idea of fixing the spring by going upstream and empowering someone to dig a hole with a shovel. I think there's a shovel there. Not a machine, not a pipe, a high-density poly pipe that you have to import from somewhere and pay someone big money because they're a support network. No, this is hand it to the local. And they dig the hole, that fills up and slowly drips down. But then that wonderful observation, Igor has observed the buffalo, and that was his observation, that they compact the ground, push the oxygen out, create a glean with their dumping, and then that makes a bigger glean and it holds the water. But then he also found that the buffalo bring a microbe that gleans it even more and locks up and creates a water feature. which then slowly transmits the water over the season into the aquifer, and then the village has water. Think about that analogy and apply that analogy, of course, with push-ups, as Hannah said. Or that, actually, I'll do push-up that way. And just, there's lots of ways to do a push-up. Do monumentless push-ups, if I can put it that way. We don't want monuments. One of the biggest things that I heard in Sydney on the 26th of January was a statement that we don't want monuments. We don't want symbolism. We want action. And Tiani wrapped our day one with such a clear, concise, and articulate example of how we can give voice and give space and give the driver's seat to the story of this land. And I think if we take that with us in our projects, if we take that with us in our hearts, if we take that with us in our lens and in our goggles, and we look at the world with that youthful clarity, when we get excited because Milo's running across holding a piece of bark that he's going to turn into the house, we want to encapsulate that level of excitement. And whether it's with an edible garden, whether it's with a community food system, whether it's with growing the actions of reconciliation, changing that letter and saying this is about reconciliation, not reconciliation, because that word has been with us a long time. And that's exactly what I heard in what you said. It's also what I heard about other groups, about how we can step out of our comfort zone and tell story. And we heard that story, from queer story to disadvantaged story, that we can share this articulate threading of life. We're all here. Remember, go over the thoughts, whether it was about schools, whether it was about the simplistic thing or the bigger concepts. Regroup. Allow the next week or month or two to do some push-ups and ponder what you've absorbed over this time. And then shift that lens a little. Step out of your comfort zone. Disturb yourself a bit. And maybe reconnect with someone and say, how's that project you're going that you shared with me at the chai tent? Because I want to know, and can I do anything? That's why we're together, to bring our hearts together. And I look at these faces and it makes me very happy. So that's where we are. Let's thread our story through here with a lens that brings action to where we place our leadership and how we get to the end of this year and what message we give to our future, particularly walking alongside and together with our First Nations people. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Costa. And we started with Costa, with emceeing and giving the introductions and all the wonderful summaries. We also started with a welcome to country. So as part of our closing, I want to acknowledge and say thank you for the privilege of being able to be here all together on this land. And I wonder if there's a culturally appropriate way to say thank you at this point. Have you got an offering? I didn't warn you, I might ask you, but just a thought.
I'll make it really quick, but very, very meaningful. If you'd just like to ground your feet on the ground and close your eyes over. And remembering the story of this land, the history of the landscape, the culture and the people, that the ties are still as strong today as they ever have been before with the Paramount people who are the owners of this land. Picturing how this landscape has changed over the last 65,000 plus years, and the ways that we can integrate what we know with our values and morals, with the kindness and love and connection, the unity that we create within ourselves and within the wider community. And say thank you in your mind with the gratitude that we have of this place. Taking in a big breath through your nose and out through your mouth, and holding the gratitude that we have for this country and for one another, and how we can move forward with what we've learnt and what we've shared with one another, and hold that in our hearts, going on to motivate us to continue radical hope. Thanks.
I'm so happy that I asked. It was really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And Ego said something this morning too. It's always in my heart to acknowledge our elders, past, present and emerging. And I heard Ego this morning acknowledge our permaculture elders, past, present and emerging. And that really touched me deeply too. And I've been contemplating these last few days about how strong this movement of ours of permaculture is, and the natural succession that's taking place. And I also want to, in that emerging, I want to acknowledge the emergence of our younger permaculture folks in this gathering, but in the whole world of permaculture, and watching younger people stepping up so strongly and so powerfully. And I just take this really deep sigh, and I think I heard Robin Francis say that to me too a couple of days ago. It's like, this sigh that some of us elder ones can make, knowing how strong and how beautiful that succession is. So I just want to honour all the younger folks, especially the ones who have spoken, led panels, stood up, brought their voice to this community for this gathering. So thank you for that. And I've heard it said so often, and I really believe this in my bones, that our children are our future. And as we've been meeting and gathering here, our kids and our young ones have been meeting and gathering, and we've got a really special surprise for you, and something's going to emerge into the space, hopefully.
We're some kids from the Nesties. We're part of the Nesties. We're going to perform a wonderful song we wrote with Charlie. Yeah. We're the Nesties. I've got some stuff here. We're the Nesties. We're about to perform. Ready. And we're going to perform. Yeah, he's got one. Hello, we're the Nesties, and we're going to perform a wonderful song wonderful song, if we can put it that way,
that we wrote with Charlie.
yeah. And it only took us about 10 minutes.
I rocked up at a workshop this morning, with the only instructions being come write a song with the kids. I rocked up, they'd already written the song. They already had the chords, and I just sat around for about 10 minutes playing it with them, and then they're like, cool, let's go perform it. So from performing it this morning at the Permaculture and Education workshop to the main stage of the APC 2020.
And a huge shout out to Claude and Kate for working with the kids and to Charlie, of course. Yeah. So this is a bit of a historical moment. We're coming to the end of APC South Australia. It's part of a long tradition of us having convergences in Australia and also internationally. And there was a convergence. I'm going to show you some slides. So I'll put this first one up and I'm going to tell you a bit of a story. We might cut those lights if someone can help me do that. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, hopefully you can see it all right. Maybe someone will deaden them. So back in APC 9 in Sydney in 2008, I was invited to lead a 3-hour visioning and planning session and completion ceremony for the whole convergence, which went for about 4 days or so. And we did a whole planning where we visioned all kinds of things and got ourselves into little sections and, action groups and things like that. And there'd often been criticisms at some of the convergences that people come up with all these great ideas and want to take them forward, and then we come back to the next convergence and nothing's happened, kind of thing. And I even saw that in writing on social media in the last couple of weeks. And I'd been contemplating it back then, and so as part of this visioning and ceremony, I came up with this process that I call jumping. And the idea, like we've often used the word jumping in permaculture, like who's going to jump, Don't just talk about it, let's actually jump into it. So I thought, well, what if we physically jumped into it? What if we did that in front of all our peers witnessing us and went, yes, I'm going to do this thing? How would that be? So we did it. And I'll show you a few slides. That's weird. Oh, thank you. That would make sense. Thanks, Lockie. So this is in Sydney. Some of those people you might recognise. There's actually 3 of those people here in the room. I didn't realise Chris was going to be here, so he's in that photo as well. And so the tradition carried on. So this is also at that APC. Joanna and Brian from New Zealand jumped to put on a convergence, the next convergence in New Zealand. Then we had one up in Kuranda. We had hay bales, it was all outside. Do you recognise anyone in those photos? Ooh. Lockie and Emily jumping off a hay bale. I can't remember what you jumped for.
That was to make Lakeside Drive Community Garden in Darwin happen, and it's still going strong now.
Yay. Nice. So this is the purpose of the jumping activity, which has now become a tradition in permaculture, that we can actually set an intention for ourselves or a group to do something together and be able to state that in an essence statement to our community and jump into action with that. So I want to quickly whiz through the tradition of this, and we'll get to the last convergence that we had in Brisbane, where quite a few people jumped. And I want to see if you notice yourself in those photos in Brisbane. I'm going to set a special challenge for you. This was New Zealand. There's no jumping photos. The photographer lost all the photos. But I wanted to honour that we did it in New Zealand with half the conference totally sick with the virus. But people still jumped into action. I took it to the IPC, International Permaculture Conference in Cuba. They thought it was a good idea, and so we had all kinds of folks start jumping in Cuba, including, there's all the Canadians jumping to form a stronger network, and all the folks from Latin America jumped, and eventually they've done a conference in Argentina just last year, but they were jumping to form the group to start doing that. So this is in Tasmania. Recognise, is Richard in the room? Hello. This was the start of your business with Oliver, yeah? Yeah, I think so. Yay. This was the new APC, the Permaculture Australia board jumping. Yeah, you are. This is the next big step for permaculture, which was a more global kind of perspective, some of us jumping to support that more. Then in the UK we jumped. I just flip through fairly quickly. Often, some people are great at jumping, let me say, but I don't want to intimidate everybody. No, just a gentle step forward with the intention is powerful enough. But Charlie's a great jumper, and Charlie, I want to acknowledge, has helped me often in different countries or different states with some accompaniment, and he'll do that today. We've had Annalise support in the past, doing some note-taking and keeping us all honest with our intentions. Oh, have I turned it upside down again? Anyway, this is David, this is Retro Suburbia jump. Do you remember this, David? That's what it is, hey? Jump to Retro Suburbia team. And did that happen? They kept their intention. These are the folks that jumped to put on the Canberra Convergence. And a whole group of us jumping to go to India for the next conference and be the Australian contingent at the Indian conference. And that was in WA that we were jumping, and this is what the crowd was doing when we did that jump, just to, show you the other perspective. India, we made it. There's a photo here, I think, with Lockie in it, and Emily, there you go, in India, jumping. Do you remember what you were jumping for? An ego? Yeah, it would be part of the manual, yeah. Yeah, Tropical Permaculture Garden Book, yay, and that happened too. And Starhawk taking a gentle jump into more strong climate action with a group of people. This is us in Canberra. This was jumping to put on the Convergence in Brisbane, Northey Street City Farm with Ronnie Martin leading the jump. I think this was, I'm not sure that was a youth in permaculture, but we've had some, and there's quite a few people there in that shot. That was the APC, Permaculture Australia Board. This was our youth in permaculture, jumping all together. Yeah, so this is Dan. I just thought I'd put that in. I knew David would be doing a session, and look how beautifully and gently that man took his life into the world, at that point. Such a gentle man, so big honour to Dan. APC in Brisbane, that's all of us gathered there. So I'll flip through some of these jumping shots. If you see yourself, so here's Virginia and Wendy, you're both here. If there's other people in any of these shots, do your best to remember what you jumped for, because I'm going to invite you to stand up and quickly share whether you've done the thing you jumped for. Yeah? That's a little video. Are you able to click on that, please, Mr. Techie people? I don't think is it going to work? Because there's a really beautiful... No, don't worry. Lizzie's here. This is not working. Recognise any of those people? Jumping for permaqueer. I put that one in because it was such a nice landing. It was like, yes. Rob Lawrence. Now, this would be for marine permaculture, hey David? Patty and April are both here. What did you jump for? Oh. Helping me. I haven't called that in yet, have I? Deldand. Ruth. Linda. Okay. So can I just check first before I ask this question? Anyone from the Brisbane Convergence who was photographed there, are you willing to share if you did what you set out to do? Yeah? Lizzie was going back to her community to set up a something song. Solar pump. Oh, solar pump. She just ran the workshop on that. Yes. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, we might need a second mic. Is there anyone else in the room wants to speak what they jumped for and if they did it? Thank you. So we've got Toad and Guy. There was at least 3 photos of you folks.
We jumped a few times in Brisbane. The first one was with a cohort of 8 different teachers who just graduated from permaculture teacher training, all of which have now taught PDCs, which is really awesome. For that. The second one was for us to set up a permaculture hub or a PDC initiative on Tamborine Mountain, which we then went and did and set up an edible exchange program. That subsequently created an edible exchange program on Mount Tamborine, which was really awesome. So perhaps for that. Oh yeah, and then the last one was developing permaqueer to have a better impact on marginalised communities, and later that year we had TEDx cultural responses to climate change, and we featured different marginalised Indigenous communities from all across the world, so I would say we definitely did that. Yeah.
Awesome, well done. Anyone else? Stand up, please, if you'd like to just share about your jump, just so I can see if we've got any more. Oh, thanks, Linda.
I nearly couldn't do this because I jumped to do retro-suburban case study ground truthing in a less shy way than is my norm. And I think I managed it, but I'm still feeling very shy, and this is difficult.
Well, thanks for standing up, Linda.
Thank you. I think presenting Lau Kling, Emily, and Lynn Jankling. We want to jump for the Tropical Permaculture Guidebook, Volume 4 on water restoration.
That's next.
Oh, the next, okay. Okay, Dave's jumping.
You've just given me a really nice segue.
Well, I'd forgotten that I was on the stage with Scott and Brian von Hertzen about marine permaculture, and Brian's work has continued apace with marine permaculture, but the peer-reviewed journal paper is still grinding through the networks, and it is very close to publication, which is permaculture as a framework for governing and constraining the what's called the blue economy of this huge expansion that's happening in ocean resources. Hopefully it will be there soon, but I can't remember the journal that it's actually being published in.
Anyone else? I don't want to leave anybody out. Yeah, Paddy's up behind you there, Bill.
My jump, well, I'm still doing the journey, but it's actually to be getting more skills. So I'm waiting for more publications to upskill me to be empowering women, and in particular single women coming from conservation and art. So, you know, a place that does conservation of the natural resources with permaculture.
Okay, well, we might move into what we're going to do now. My question to you, Mount Barker, South Australia 2023, what will you jump for? Has anything come to you through this convergence or been strengthened through your connections and communications with other people here that you feel really inspired to bring into the world, permaculture related, bring into this community or take forth in some kind of special, purposeful way? You might have come here with an inkling of it. So if you have something either by self, as a partnership, or in collaboration with other people, you might not have even asked for help yet if you need help. We've got a few moments now to transition from here to our outside eating venue on the far edge of it. We've set up another stage and we've set up a gentle jumping platform and a microphone and things like that. So I would ask, this is always a challenge to transition a group of lots of people in one fluent, beautiful movement so we don't lose anybody and not turn into a kind of ragged mob. So what I would invite is think of something as you're walking, frame it up as you're walking into some kind of essence intent statement. Something that you could step up to a microphone and say, I'm Robin and I'm choosing to do this, or I want to do this, or we're coming together to form a team to do this. And you'll get the microphone and you'll get to jump off. But I'd like by the time we get from here to there that you've got those essence statements framed up in your mind. And quite a few of you may not want to jump for anything, or you might feel a bit shy about it. This is something you can do as your own personal process too. You don't necessarily need to get up and be witnessed by everyone. But if most of you would like to, it's an opportunity to set an intention for you to walk away from this gathering with something purposeful in mind. And you can just make that commitment to yourself. But let's see, we'll probably get quite a few of you want to go, yes, and we'll all celebrate you, because there's something about being witnessed by our community. It helps us hold to those intents, gives us courage when we might have those down times or whatever, and we can ask for support, yeah? So let's just keep a kind of silence rather than any little chitter-chatter. Let the chatter be about helping you form collegiate groups to make those intentions. If you've thought about, oh, I'd love to do that with that person, seek them out as we're walking. See if you can find that support that you need. Okay? So if I count us to three, let's all stand up and in one fluid movement make our way outside. So 1, 2, 3. Tim, there's the microphones. I left the clicker down there, and I know I turned one of those